heads of states, particularly those heads of states of the former French colonies, majority of them were just puppets put in place to continue the same French legacy, which basically boxed them in, where it said you have no control of your military, you have no control of your natural resources, you have no control of your finances, and if you continue from those three areas, you are free to rule your country any which way you want. What power does that president have?
One reason why the West and French in particular is throwing tantrums over its dwindling in influence in Africa is because so-called leaders beholden to them are being kicked out of power. In this clip, former African Union ambassador to the US, Dr. ARIKANA CHIHOMBORI explains why an African leader's popularity in the West is directly related to chronic underdevelopment at home. Such is the case with Niger's deposed President Mohamed Bazoum, who is a darling of the IMF, the World Bank, the United States, and the French. Dr. ARIKANA CHIHOMBORI says Bazoum is loved because he was an able and beneficiary of exploitation of Niger's resources. Africans are now holding their leaders to account and will not tolerate those that impoverish them in order to stay in the good books of the West. So, brothers and sisters, I want you to listen to this speech just a little, then we will come back to share thought and ideas on the comment section.
The performance that you're talking about is the performance of what Nigerian minerals are doing to French education, to French healthcare, to French infrastructure. You tell me, why is it that 95% of Nigerian uranium is powering over 30% of France, while over 70% of Nigerians have no electricity? How is that okay? How is even President Bazoum proud of himself with that fact? There is no development in Niamey. I was in Niamey a few years ago when we had the AU summit. It was pitiful to see the level of underdevelopment that Niger has. There is no development in Niger. Let's make no mistake about it. Niger is the second poorest country in Africa, in the world, in fact. So how can President Bazoum be proud of himself? What development is he talking about? You're talking about developing France? There is no development in Niger. One of the poorest countries on earth. And of course, IMF would love them. World Bank would love them. France would love him. Because he is allowing the pilferage, the exploitation to continue. And that's why the people are rising up to say, if you can't stand up to the bullies and tell them that the exploitation can no longer continue, and look President Macron in the face and say, President Macron, how is it okay that my money, my bank reserves, my natural resources are funding French education, are funding French healthcare, are funding French infrastructure? How is that okay, President Macron? Answer us. Africans in Niger, they want to know. So when you tell me that he is favored by the West, it makes sense. But he's definitely not favored by the people because there is no development. Let's be serious here. Let's stop pushing lies about what's happening. They know the exploitation is happening. It's happening in Niger. It's happening in Burkina Faso. It's happening in Mali. It's happening in every African country. Let's make no mistake about this. We're sick and tired of giving up our lives to Western nations. African children, they need to eat too. African children need to go to school. African children need good healthcare systems. Behind all that abuse, we need to let the Western world know that there are millions of African children who are going hungry, millions of African children who are dying, millions of women, African women who are dying giving birth to another life, millions of African youth who are unemployed, all because the Western world is continuing with the agenda of exploitation, and exploitation of the African continent. That era is over. And we're coming together as Africans and saying, enough is enough. This has got to stop.
The speech is great because the time for Africa to take an action is now. And saying for the high vote that enough is enough. Let us select or let us support the leaders who we see doing well to the citizens or to the African first, not for the Western world. So what we see in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is what we want to see to the whole continent of Africa, where we see leaders are taking control of their own and fulfilling the needs of their citizens first, not for these Westerners. So brothers and sisters, kings and queens, sons and daughters, let us now say for the whole continent of Africa that to stop the exploitation of Africans' resources. The wake up of the Africans is led by these leaders from West African countries. I'm speaking about Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, and not only them, but there are some many countries in Africa now starting waking up. So let me end here. If you have anything, let us know in the comment section. This is Facts About Africa, the African channel of your thoughts and changing the narrative of Mother Africa. Sometimes we provide solutions for our own problem because we believe that African problem for African solution. Thanks for watching.